Our plans to achieve a certain goal will be different from one another. And this also applies to our financial plans as well, because if we were all the same, then we could all probably do the same things and achieve the same results. However, as we know, that life doesn't always work like that. Everyone has got different plans, different situations, different setup, different backgrounds, and all of this needs to be accounted for in our finances. So in this video, we need to talk about that and how you can go about achieving your goals if you set out to achieve financial freedom. Investing is a journey, and as long as you understand your path in your journey, then maybe everything will make sense at the end of it all. Because hey, when it comes to saving, when it comes to investing, when it comes to planning for that future, it requires that we focus on our own journey, on our own path, so that we can finally arrive at the destination that we desire. If you're comparing yourself to the next person, to the next neighbor, to the next friend that you have that is doing well, then your ability to achieve that success will be diminished, because what they say, comparison is the steal of joy. I hope I'm saying that correctly. When it comes to how I invest, I look at my life in 3 phases, and I've realized this a long time ago, and I've been working on this for a while. And hopefully I'm able to achieve the goals that I set for those stages in my life. Now, one thing I would say is, for every stage, there's always a curveball. There's always that thing that you never planned for. There's always that thing that you never expected. And those things will happen. But let's talk about those 3 stages. Let's start with the first phase. And generally, the first phase, I'm going to pick the last one. The reason why I do that is because they always say you want to plan for the most difficult things first. I believe in that a lot. I always try to look at the most difficult areas of my life and try to address those, because what they say, if you're able to address the difficult things, your life gets easier. So for example, one of the first things that I look at is the retirement phase. I understand that retirement is boring and that's not something that we all look forward to. I mean, who wants to sit at home and not do anything, right? But it's also important to plan for that, because as we get older, our ability to do things diminishes, and that means our mobility or just health and things like that could deter us from being able to do the things that we really love. Now, it's important to exercise, it's important to eat right, it's important to get good medical services. Those things are important, but at the end of the day, nobody lives forever. And that's why retirement phase is so important to plan for. So how do we plan for retirement? The first thing that you want to look at is the type of accounts that you have access to. For example, if you have a business that you run, do you have a retirement account that you put some money into? If you work a normal 9-to-5 job, do you have maybe a 401k that you invest in? So for example, if you run your own business, you should look for some IRAs that will benefit you, because at the end of the day, either of these retirement accounts, they all have some benefits. There's some pros, there's some cons, but at the end of the day, it's better than nothing. So I always try not to complicate things. I try to look for the first thing that is actually accessible to me. So in my case, I started with a job and I'm still working. I still have a job. So my first set of deduction from my income is usually towards my retirement. And like they always say, at least you match what your company gives, all right? So if your company matches 3%, you try to put at least 3% so that you get the equal match and you don't leave any money on the table. But also, you want to probably do more than that, especially if you are able. Of course, it's important to take care of the now, but your future will thank you. Your ability to take care of yourself when you retire is based on you taking care of yourself now, taking care of that future self, being able to make those sacrifices now, putting that money into that 401k, putting that money into that Roth IRA, into that, traditional IRA. All those goes a long way in taking care of that future self. And that is something that, needs to be preached a lot, especially as immigrants. If you are not able to do that, what would happen is you put yourself in a situation where you end up working for a very long time, even when you are not physically capable of doing some of those jobs that will be required then. I understand that not everybody wants to maybe invest all their money into stocks because they believe it's so volatile, and sometimes you can't predict what will happen to the stock market. I get that. It happens. That is life. But here's where diversification also comes in. If you are planning to, retire in the next 30 years or more, then maybe you want to look into real estate and find a way to buy 1 or 2 properties that are maybe will be fully paid off, by the time you retire. And the hope is that those properties will pay you through rental income. And that's something that, some people choose to put their money into. Don't downplay the importance of those investments as well. By the way, if you're finding value in this one, please don't forget to drop a like. So to like the video, and also don't forget to subscribe. So please subscribe to the channel. The second phase, which in this case is the next important phase that, depending on what age or what phase you are in your life, you may be there right now. And I think I'm at the accumulation phase. This accumulation phase is where we all need to be very careful. We have so many things going on in our lives. We are growing, we are expanding, we are starting a family, our parents are probably aging, we have maybe kids, we have maybe some health issues. All this generally happens at the accumulation phase. Trust me, because that's where you're probably trying to get another job that pays you more. That's where you're trying to move for that better job. That is where you're trying to start a business and hope that it grows. There's so many risks and so many rewards that could be tapped in this stage. But the accumulation phase is where you want to make sure that you are putting away enough towards the future, all right? Towards taking care of the important things. For example, your retirement, like I already mentioned, which is the phase you're already preparing for. So let's assume you're already doing that. The next thing is your kids. For example, do you need to start a 529 account for them? Maybe you need to start some form of college plan for them, right? That's where you need to start doing that, because you don't want to wait until your kids are now ready to go to school and you realize that you don't have any support for them. I mean, hopefully the plan is to be able to support your kids when they finally get to that stage. The other thing is that's where you're probably this stage of accumulation phase is where you're trying to also save for maybe a bigger space or maybe a newer car or, things like that. And these things are important, but at the end of it all, we all don't have infinite money. We need to be able to set targets that are important based on our need, and hopefully we achieve them. So how do we manage this phase? This is where we need to be very careful about lifestyle inflation. And what is lifestyle inflation? Tendency for our expenses to increase based on our income. So if your income increases, our expenses increases. If our income increases, that's when we tend to buy more things, we tend to buy more expensive things. And that's what they call lifestyle inflation. Now, I get it. Sometimes, things would dictate the need. Maybe you need a bigger space, maybe you need a bigger car because of just family size and things of that nature, right? But we need to be very careful and not extend ourselves into a place where we are unable to save, or we are unable to plan for that future that is more important, or save for our kids, or even save for ourselves for those future things. And this is where we also should be very careful of debt, okay? Be very careful of unnecessary debt that will pull us down and slow our ability to save down as well. We don't want that. So credit card debt is something to be careful about. Car loans are something that we should be careful about. Mortgage loans, be very careful depending on how affordability, right? We want to make sure that we find things that we can afford and we can comfortably pay for. So hopefully we keep that at this stage. We keep our expenses and income at check. So making sure that our income exceeds our expenses, and we watch out for lifestyle inflation. So the first phase that we need to then keep in mind, which generally dictates the trajectory of our accumulation phase and our retirement, is the start out phase. I call it start out phase because this is where we are probably going to college. We're trying to find a trade school to go to, a job to start, a business to start. We are much younger. We have not a lot of responsibilities. We don't have a lot of things going on in our lives other than just maybe living with our parents, or maybe living with a friend, or sharing an apartment, things like that. This is a start out phase. This is a very critical phase, because if we are able to start out at the right path, or start out on the right path, this gives us the ability to maybe progress much faster during the accumulation phase. So in this case, find a job that you hopefully have some passion, or at least you have the ability to do well in, okay? So that you can excel, so that you can hopefully grow higher in income and make a lot of money. Now, education is also important at this stage. Now, education is always important in all of these phases because things will change. You have to learn new things. But it's even more important at the startup phase, because depending on, you go to an expensive school, you take out student loans, and then you are not making enough money, those will really set you back. And that's not something that I want for anybody. So I hope that you're able to put some effort into these phases. Depending on what stage you are, know that there's always enough time to catch up based on your goals. So set realistic goals that are achievable and that are specific. And that way you are able to attain and achieve your desired goals and success as well.